Okay, welcome back then to JACKOCAST. It is the third episode, and it's actually a re-recording. Apparently, he has more to say this time around. But let's give you some stats then. From the Cup Series, 78 race starts, 13 pole positions, 5 fastest laps, 172 laps led, 7 wins, and sits second all-time in the points, won 838. It can only be Mr. Ben Shaw. Welcome to JACKOCAST. How are we?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me again. I'm glad we could sort out our issue. My tweet regarding Jacko referring to it close to 1930s Germany, didn't go too well with the Jacko car hierarchy, but I'm glad we've sorted it out. So,
We are here. To be fair, we've had a couple of days since that last recording, so maybe this one's going to be better. Let's hope so.
a couple of days to dwell on it, a couple of days to think of some more answers. So, yeah, that's
Think of more people you dislike and can slag off on this podcast. Right, let's go right from the beginning then, Ben. Your racing career up to now, basically, and including how you ended up in Jacko Car.
Yeah, so obviously I joined the league in season two after watching the brilliant Championship 5 finale at China. Pete taking that one, and just from watching that race, I thought, you know what, that's something I could get involved in. That's something I could really enjoy racing. Just something different from the usual for league racing sort of format. So tried to join, didn't get through the draft, of course. Obviously that's a thing of the past now, but when the draft was a thing in season two, failed to get through that, and then Dan's car, I believe, dropped out after the regular season. I took his place, won the Chase Championship, and sort of just sprung on from there on.
Very well. And I think you've said to me before, haven't you? You've been in minimal leagues up to this point. You're very loyal, in a word.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
what was I going to say as well? Oh, yeah. Whenever somebody mentions the draft to me, I always forget it's like a forgotten feature of Jacko Car. It's my idea, but I
it's
totally forget
it's
about
cra-
it.
yeah, it's crazy because obviously the thoughts of teams now is something that we retch at and never think
Yeah.
to consider even going back to ever again. So to think about drafting for teams and whatnot is something that seems so far away from the league now, just because we just don't have the team culture
Yeah.
to it. But at
Absolutely.
the time, it was a great feature at the time, but we could never bring it back. No way.
Definitely not. And so for any other league owners listening, binning off teams is the best thing you'll ever do, I assure you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Saves a lot
um,
of drama.
oh Christ, doesn't it? The early days, then you've already sort of stole my thunder on it. You joined mid-season of season two, replacing Dan's car. You were the second ever Chase champion, but it gave you a shot at a Championship 5 in your debut season. So back then, you've been to two more since then, but back then, what were your thoughts going into that race? Did you think you had a chance or not?
I mean, if you're there, you have a chance. That's how it is. You know, if you're one of the five, then there's always a possibility. However, realistically speaking, with Carl, Jamie, and Arnold there, I knew it was going to take a miracle, and that thought of a miracle ended after about three corners when I got wing damage. So, and it was just a terrible race from then onwards. But no, I mean, even going into the race, I was calmer than what I would expect to be, just because of the fact I knew that the expectation wasn't necessarily there, just by pace comparison. Um, if that was to be, say, now, and that was the first one, obviously the pressure would be way higher because I'd like to think my pace has improved quite a lot since then. But
Yeah.
then it was just a case of try and stay in the race, just see if I could maybe look into it. But as I say, it didn't turn out that way. I ended about three corners in, and then Jordan crashed into the back of me when he couldn't see my car and I could see his. Sort of just put the final nail in the coffin for that one. Any chance of a season two win, but we moved on. Went on to the T300 after that, and then started to push on. But that season two one I think it was helpful because it helped ground me into the league. It gave me that Championship 5 experience without having to really have the pressure of it. So I think that's probably helped a little bit in further seasons.
Yeah.
But at that point, it was just a case of just trying to stay in it. And as I say, I didn't. But that didn't upset me too much because, as I say, the expectations weren't exactly there in the first place.
And back then, of course, the Chase champions, it wasn't um, as desirable as it is now. You know,
Mm.
a Chase champion was just, oh, that's the guy that finished 11th. It's a novelty thing. to make up a championship five. But now
Yeah,
since then we've seen how we've had two or three like overall champions that have come from Chase Champions. So
it's brilliant because it's obviously it's a tactical thing as well. You'll have
yeah,
some drivers who have a really poor start to the season where they should be at the top, and they think, okay, well, unless I can get a win, I'm quite content being in this bottom 10 because you'd like to think they could then beat them over the course of six races. So, and it has been used tactically before. And to be honest, I mean, it might be a bit of a shame to the other drivers who were hoping at an outside shot. But for the drivers who are in that position after a poor start to the season, it's a really good tool to bring the season back for them.
yeah, and
So
you're
it's really, oh, it's not unique because it's a NASCAR thing, but it just it it's about keeping drivers involved until the very last moment, and that's exactly what it brings, and that's what's
and
the most important part about it.
to the point now where you actually see some big name drivers actually rely on the chase and then finish no higher than 12th in the season because they get beaten by another big name driver
Yeah,
that's held back. So it's such a unique thing. But you now, or just skip a little bit forward, where you are now one of these bigger names, you would rather focus on winning races and going through the playoffs than going through the chase. What's your preferred way?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, chase for me was a thing of the past. In season 4, when I had that horrible season with all the disconnects and whatnot, I sort of had to accept the fact I was chase bound, and that was okay because I knew that it was circumstances out of my control. But I would not want to have to label myself as a chase driver from now on, knowing from obviously the two regular season championships in a row. I'm sort of stealing your stats here, apologies.
Yeah,
But
that's at the
the
bottom of my list. I was going to bring that
yeah,
up,
well,
but never
as I
mind.
say, the two regular season championships sort of makes it so that to be 11th down isn't something that I'd want to have to associate with myself at this point, because I've got that expectation for myself as a driver now that I don't want
Yeah,
to have to be going through the chase.
absolutely. And so going back to where we were then, season two finishes, you get a top five in your first season after only doing what, eight, nine races. Not bad. Um, the season three and season four rebuild up to the point before your first win in Portugal. What an awful time. What kept you in the league in those two seasons?
I think, well, as I've said to you on multiple occasions, it's different, and that's what keeps me there. Like, obviously, it was a bit of a dark period in terms of not necessarily the racing, but the community was in a bit of a rocky period, and it needed freshening up. But you could see the potential. You knew it could be something really, really good and really enjoyable every single week, and always bringing people back. I knew the potential was there for it, so it didn't. There was no point in my mind where I thought I want to start this off, because it was just, as I say, it's different, it's fresh, it's unique, but it also had the potential to be really, really enjoyable.
Yeah,
So, as I said, there was no debate about ever leaving. No
that's
chance.
to the point where you actually helped, along with Matt Rosemond, you helped rewrite the rulebook, the new era of
Yeah,
JACKOCAST from season four onwards, to which um, benefited you in Portugal season four. Arnaud de Grief with a violation on his restart. Went too early, went before the infamous orange barrier on the
the
left.
orange barrier, the infamous orange barrier. If I
And
ever do so to Portimao, I'd love to be able to go onto the track and just take a picture next to that barrier. I'd
just
love it.
send it
I'd
to him.
love to do it. Yeah.
um, do you feel it was a monkey off the back, if you will, getting that first win out the way? Was it a gift? Were you ecstatic with it? Do you class it as one of your seven? How do you view that win?
Well, I mean, in terms of statistics speaking, it's a win. A win's a win. That's great. But I didn't want my first win to be in a steward's room. That's how I never want to win races. I think it takes away the satisfaction of it. I mean, it's just referring to Thursday just gone. That America win was more satisfying than that Portugal win, simply because I didn't have to do it over DMs. I didn't have to, re- file reports just to be able to say, I should win the race. It feels wrong in a way, but you're right to do it, because then otherwise it then sets a precedent that anyone can do it. But it doesn't it's no less valuable than any other win. It just felt different. But to
Yeah,
answer your question about the monkey off the back, I think it did propel me a little bit, because it then made me believe, you know what, I can win races. And the fact that I kept with Arnold in that race, consider even though he is a much faster driver than most, and
Yeah,
he'll be he wouldn't shy away from saying that himself. He's really really quick. So to just to be able to say, I kept with him the whole race. I deserve to be in that position to win the race. It made it a little more easy to say, no, I have won that race because I've
yeah.
done it right. But it's I think it's about three of my 7 wins have all come at Portugal now, so it's definitely a good luck charm. Definitely a good luck charm, but all in very different circumstances. But every race is different, and I think that's one thing that you have to take away from it is that there's no straight road to a win in Jacko.
No.
There's always got something which throws it up in the balance, and you have to react to it. And that's again just another thing that makes the league great to racing is because it's that engaging that you're always thinking during races. And I feel like with other leagues sometimes that's an issue. Where you'll sort of grow into this pattern of like you're just driving around and there's not really much going on. Whereas with
Yeah.
Jacko, you think, right, okay, when's the next time I can pit? When's the next stage lap? When all this sort of thing.
Would you say it's
It just
stressful
a little
or
bit. It
gets
depends
to the
on.
head?
It gets to the head. It does get to the head. It depends on the scenario, of course. If we're talking C5, then it's definitely stressful. If we're talking first race of the season, it's more of an intrigue. Um, but it's definitely more mentally engaging to me, at
Mm,
least, anyway. So others may feel different, but to me, it's far more mentally engaging.
good answer. Um, after after that win, you had to sort of complete season four anyway. I don't think anything major happened after that win, but the rebuild was complete. So it set you on your way for two championship runs in season five and season six. You went back to back in San Marino and then Portugal early on in the regular season of season five. Carried the form all the way through to what would have been Saudi Arabia that season, Championship 5. Dominated the race, lost it on a penalty. And then you come into season 6, you win multiple races. You are now the most prolific pole sitter in the last 2 seasons. Again, you're winning your races. You get all the way to Miami, you dominate the race, and you lose a championship on the last lap. Talk us through the last 2 seasons where you've been really successful and been so close. But is that championship coming?
It always dampens the season. I think when you look at throughout the whole season how successful it's been to then not carry it through to a championship hurts, especially when you get regular season championship and when you're first to qualify for the C5, you think you're in prime position, but that's sort of the league. It's you're only one of five. There's no leaderboard to it. It's just flat, plain out and simple. There's 5 drivers and one will win. But obviously with Saudi Arabia, that was a bit of a difficult one to take, but no less than Miami. Miami was a tough one simply because of I know you say I dominated in Saudi, but the other guys were with me the whole time. But obviously in Miami, I think it was like 13, 14 second gaps to P2 at some point.
Yeah.
It was definitely in my hands. But and you say I lost it on the final lap. I think I lost it about 6 laps earlier than that when I decided not to come in for the wets. I didn't expect the water to collect that much. I thought it would pass, as it said on the radar, on the radar,
Yeah.
um, and it didn't. So that was on me, and I think that was more of a hard one to take because it was a decision I made. The blame rests on my own shoulders for that one. There's nothing anyone else has done where I could say, oh well, that happened. It's bad luck. That was me. That was my decision, and that is obviously inevitably didn't pan out. So, but to answer your question about if the championship's coming, I'd like to think it is coming. I don't think it's coming. I think this season my confidence is pretty high. Obviously bought new pedals. They're working well for me, evidently. Um, so no, my confidence high, but as I've said, it's all down to one race at the end of the day. Assuming that I do get to the C5, it's all a level playing field. Anything could happen, and that's sort of the beauty of the league in a sense. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yes or no answer. Was there any point in either of those two Championship 5 races where you thought you had it won?
Yes, definitely. I think about lap 20 of Miami, and I think every time after the back straight before the tight turn corner,
Yeah.
and every
Yeah.
single time I was hitting the braking point and I was getting it spot on, and the car felt brilliant. And I thought, you know what? If I'm doing this every single lap, it's curtains. I thought, this is it. This is actually it. So I started to get quite excited, just in myself. I was trying to stay composed, but and then obviously the race car just kind of fell
Yeah.
away from me as the rain came. So I think that also made it harder to take because obviously with Saudi I had the time penalty sat there, so I already knew I was on the back foot, so it was a bit easy to take. But the Miami one, before I got that 5 second penalty for cutting the chicane and whatever else, um, it was much more secure. So yeah, no, definitely with Miami, I think that was one where I did think, yeah, I think this might finally be time.
Yeah.
But that's just how it works sometimes. That's just how it goes, and it
That's
goes the same
Jacko
for
Cast.
NASCAR. It's the same for NASCAR. I mean, you just Carl Larson every single week he's dominating, and then a late caution comes out, and then he loses the win. It's so transferable over from one another, and that's just how the league is, and you have to take that. You have to accept it. You can't treat it as I've been robbed and things like that because it's just the league. It's just the league, and that's all that boils down to at the end of the day.
And that NASCAR style is what we've wanted to sort of create over the years as well. And we
Yeah,
do get it. We get it far too often, actually. But we're blessed with some good races.
we are.
What
Yeah.
One thing I will say about you, since you've joined the league, you've always been very confident in yourself in the like answers you've given to me over DMs and in person. You've always backed yourself like, oh, that win is coming, or I will make Championship 5. And you've obviously after the extended rebuild, you have proven that the wins are falling. The pole record is within sight. You're only 3 away. Um, Championship on the way. You got Silverstone this season. Could be done
Yep.
there. Vegas next season, back to a street circuit. But yeah, you have always backed yourself more so than any other driver that I've dealt with. I've dealt with 83 as a league owner.
Yeah. I think it's some may see it as arrogance. No one's ever vocalized it to me as being arrogant, but I'm not a believer in downplaying yourself. I think that only ever brings self doubt. So, and as I say, it's not me turning around and saying I'm going to win every week and things like that. I know it's realistically that won't happen. But if I don't back myself, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
That's my personal like belief behind it is that if you're not believing in yourself, then no one's going to believe in the fact you can do it. And
absolutely.
that's just the way I think, I suppose.
And a good mentality to have. So, coming off the back of season 6, sort of for the duration of season 6, and you knew this was coming. It seems to be my catchphrase on these podcasts now. After speaking to Corey and Jess, but speaking of Corey,
Hmm.
the Corey drama, whatever, there's no other way to word it really. Talk to us
It is the code, yeah.
specifically about what was it? It was the after the Austin race. Who messaged who, and was it your fault that Corey got a qualifying ban for Miami, and then eventually a season ban for this season, season 7, or was it a bit of the other way around? Because he's had his say a couple of weeks ago. It's now the stage is yours.
Yeah. So I'd like to respond in terms of Corey's what Corey said on his podcast, and I don't know if he's been mistaken with it, but he did message me first regarding it after I because the initial report was because of a move that he made on me. I was inside of him and Kieran, and he spun me, and I just
Turn
thought, you know what,
16 was that?
that's the one. Yeah,
Yep,
the
yep,
uphill.
yep.
So I reported him for that move. It was an NFA anyway. It was an NFA as you deemed it, but I thought that it warranted reporting simply because it was the final race before the C5. I thought if there was any chance of a report having some meaning, considering I'd been spun in that way, I think that would be the time. But afterwards, so then he messaged me. As I said, I don't know if he's mistaken with that, saying that I messaged him first. And obviously, we'd had some issues with verbal stuff over the seasons for the drivers, and it wasn't. It didn't have C5 in mind. As it may look as if that was the case, that wasn't the case. It was simply I was putting a steward's head on when I reported the verbal thing. It
Yep.
wasn't a racist thing because as I mean, as I said throughout this podcast, I said that it's down to that one race, the 5 drivers. It doesn't matter anything before that, anything after it. So it was sort of just like a precedent thing, I guess, of just saying, this you've already had 2 warnings for it, and you have been warned about it, so you've done it again, and I'm not going to stand for it. But obviously since I've listened to his podcast, and there's a lot more context to his side of things, and
Yeah,
after listening to that, I've far more respect for him as a person, and it gives it a bit more understanding to how it went last season with him, with conduct and whatnot. It makes a lot more sense. So I'm happy to sweep it under the rug and call it bygones be bygones. And when he comes back next season, which has been confirmed, I
yeah.
assume, then we'll be able to clean slate and race the way that we wanted to race last season in that Hamilton Verstappen style that we promised you guys, but it never really happened.
Yeah. You'll be pleased to hear after I speak to Corey anyway outside the league. You'll be pleased to hear he's doing well. Got a girlfriend now, and he
Yeah,
is
I saw.
looking forward to his return to Jacko Car season 8. It is only a competitive bat, and not many people actually know this. He can still come in and reserve in races, but that opportunity hasn't come up yet this season because the
Yeah,
driver retention is so high. Everyone turns up.
yeah.
Um, but you're excited to race him when he does come back, you say?
Definitely, definitely. It's gonna be a new game. It's gonna be fresh start. It's all just fresh starts. I think that's what it is. I mean, obviously, I think the new game probably won't be too dissimilar to this one, but it's still a new game nevertheless. It's clean slates. So, but I'm looking forward to him being back on the grid. To be honest, I'm looking forward to it.
And we tend to find our autumn winter seasons are generally better than
Hmm.
the spring summer ones like we're in now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's just the
it,
way the game cycle goes. I think it's with a new game that you get it's a lot of rust. I think, especially last season, we had so much chaos because people couldn't understand these new cars.
yeah,
In the first season of the game, people couldn't understand how they really worked, bottoming out and the understeer and whatnot. So there was a lot of carnage in the first season of this game, and that's why I think this season's settled down a little bit. And as I said to you before, I think people have started to find their feet and understand where they lie in terms of the pace order.
yeah,
So it's a little less unpredictable, but I think that's just the nature of the game this time round. I think that's just how
yeah.
it is. But
And between you and I and everyone listening, I was speaking to an old name a few days ago who has expressed his intentions to return, goes by the name of Arnold de Grief, an old nemesis of yours. Not
well,
somebody you ever had much to do with on track,
yeah, I
though,
was I was gonna
other
say
than
you say old
Portugal.
nemesis. Yeah, other than
Yeah,
Portugal, you say old nemesis. We've never really clicked together because when he was in the league, I was on the G29 and I was a couple of places back. I think I'd probably get
yeah.
what seventh, eighth, sometimes sixth or a fifth if I'm lucky. And I wouldn't be pushing for wins like he was. So it'll be good
Is
to it'll be good to have him there while I'm now at a pace where I can compete with the likes of him. I mean, if he comes into the league and blows us all the way, well, then that's fair enough, and that's just what it is.
yeah,
But
off he goes
if
again.
it, off he goes again, but if he comes into the league and we're a good similar pace, I think you're looking at the driver list. You've got what me, Corey, Arnold, Jamie, Jake. There's Casper. It's going to be
And
tasty.
the
It's
fastest
going to
man in team speed, don't forget as well,
and the
Gareth
fastest
Hall.
man in team speed, Gareth
It's
Hall, self-proclaimed. Though I disagree with that one. But
I'm
I
excited for his
disagree with that one.
podcast.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant, that one, isn't
Yeah.
it? No, but
Um,
yeah, no, it's going to be good if F1 23 goes as it intends to with the grid that we've got planned. I think that'll be a really really good season. Because I mean, you look at 6 drivers, 2 are going to be very disheartened
yeah,
because
absolutely.
2 of them will feel, do you know what?
Did you mention Casper as well?
I did mention Casper at the end there, yeah. So
Yeah,
they're
okay.
the 6 I'm collecting out, but that's just off the top of my head. Of course, you get Kieran a 7th. So the more names that come to head, the more it's going to be. Playoffs are going to be very tasty,
Jamie
especially
Griffiths
if
improved as well.
Jamie Griffiths has come leaps and bounds this season. I'm really impressed. It did surprise me. It did surprise, considering it's not a new game. Do you know what I mean? You think that the
Yeah,
pace would carry over from season to season, but I don't know what he's done. But he's really improved this season. It's really good to see. It's really good to see.
definitely a front runner now.
100%.
Um, Give us of your 6 seasons, your 5.5 seasons, if you will, in Jacko a list of your favourite people to race against and least people to race against and reasons why.
Well, I'd say favourites to race against would, I mean, just thinking short term here, is definitely Jamie and Jake. They're always respectful, but they're always fast as well. I've said to you before a few times that it's frustrating how similar we are in pace because
Yeah,
I can't make him roads and they can't make him roads. So we sort of just like sit in this limbo period of, I think, them again thinking back to Texas just gone, about 6 or 7 tenths between me and Jake the whole way, and it wouldn't change, and there'd be no difference. But no, when we do go wheel to wheel, it's good. It's always respectful, even though we both obviously want the position and things, and we know we deserve them. We're very respectful, and that's something that it's hard to come about in a lot of leagues. Um, in terms of least favorite to race, it'd be hard to pick because I think everyone gives each other quite a lot of respect. But in terms of running into one another, me and Pete have always had issues on track. I say always, it's been flashpoints, but notably, obviously, the super speedway
Yeah,
and
season 5, wasn't it?
yeah,
For
super speedway season
P2 at the
5.
time.
Yeah, and I think that sort of killed my race. I think it definitely ruined any chance of me keeping up with Matt, which I had the confidence I think I could have done. And then obviously Spain on my Joker, which I think it hurt a little bit more just because it was a Joker and I fancied myself anyway. But yeah, I think just because of incidents. But there's no one that when I'm coming up to on the track, I think, oh, for God's sake. Apart from maybe some of the ART guys when they're helping out Jake and Jamie, they can sometimes be a bit of a nuisance. Connor and
Yeah,
MK do a very good job of making my life difficult. I will say, I'll give them that one. They do a very
yeah,
good job of it.
absolutely. Um, what was I going to say? I think that, yeah, you sort of covered that. Favourites and least favourites. I would ask you a silly question, but I know what the answer would be. Favourite track, Portugal, by any chance?
It has to be, doesn't it? It has to be. It's
Yeah.
quite funny, really, because after obviously lost the 2 wins on the old game, and it was a lot more of a planted car. You could throw the car about and it would obey. This season, obviously, it's a bit different. I did a little bit of practice, and I thought, oh, this might not be my track anymore. Kept it quiet. Didn't want to say anything. Didn't want to make anyone feel a little
Because
bit too
the king
excited.
of Portugal, you can't
I
let people
didn't want
know.
to profess, I didn't want to hand over my crown before the race even started. So I was like, I'll keep this one quiet. I'll just see what happens. I'll just see what happens. But then when it came to race pace, it sort of just clicked, and I'm glad it did. I think I ended up robbing some Israeli man's YouTube setup, and I had a look at it, and I was like, let's have a try this. And I was watching his lap, and I was thinking, oh, he downshifts that way, and all this sort of thing. I was like, oh, okay, let's have a try of that, and it worked really well. So, I mean, just gonna say when it just came to the race, it just sort of clicked. But and I'm glad it has because I needed to keep that. I don't know what I'd have to done if I had to take that out of my bio. It would have hurt to take out. I can't call myself the king if I'd lost there. So
Absolutely. And two of those races I commentated on, but was looking through some of the stats. Out of your 7 wins, I've been lead commentator on 4 of you. Think how rare that is? I've been lead
yeah.
commentator on 4 of your race wins, 57%. So clearly you like it when I'm in the hot seat and Owen's away doing
Well,
whatever Owen does,
either
chasing
Owens up.
leprechauns. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, yeah, whatever he gets up to on his time in uni. But when either you're a good luck charm or he's a bad omen, one of the two.
Just a bad
Um,
Owen, some would say.
yeah, bad
Ah,
Owen. Yeah,
stop
yeah.
it.
Hey, brilliant, brilliant. No, but it's a weird fun little fact, isn't it?
Yeah,
A fun little fact, but
because I think I've only done like 6 or 7 lead commentaries in total,
yeah.
and 4 of them are yours. With, of course,
Some will
one
say
of
it's
them.
rigged. Some will say
Well,
it's rigged.
some do say that, and I can't wait to hear their opinion if we ever get them on it. But notably, of course, one of your favourite lines, I know it is one of my bits of commentary of the second win in Portugal.
Yeah, the
You
Joker
can
win.
lead as many laps as you like, Mr. Redmore, but you've only got to lead
Brilliant line
one to win the
to
race,
win the
and that,
race.
and
It's a brilliant bit of
I
commentary. It's
think
brilliant,
I
but
peaked. That's the peak of my Jacko car career.
yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. That, but I remember from that race, I was back at home. I wasn't at uni, and the Wi-Fi was really dodgy, and I was sat on my brother's old broken chair and his table, which was wobbling about and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, this is horrible. And I was on Inters on a dry track, and it was just absolutely horrific. But I was glad to bring that one back. I remember a couple of times. I think you had a little bit of a whoa moment in the commentary box when I like almost drifted out the final corner.
I
I
think
think it
so.
was the lap
Yeah,
before the end. I was because the inters just weren't working anymore. But no, that is definitely the most satisfying win. I think it's always satisfying when you interchangeable conditions always come into effect like that. I mean,
yeah,
I've been on both ends of that, and I can definitely say winning one of those races is amazing, but losing one of those races hurts quite a lot.
yeah. Mr. Shaw, you've mentioned a lot about university. What are your future goals in life, in esports? What do you want to achieve?
So my future goals in terms of life is just to be a journalist. I'm halfway through my journalism degree now. It's going pretty well. So that's sort of the road I want to take in terms of a professional career. Definitely something that I think I've getting quite a good knack of and enjoying it and whatnot. So that's hopefully where my future will hold with that. In terms of esports, just doing what I'm doing really. Just it's mainly Jacko car, VSL bit on the side, just for a bit of practice. But as I've said to you before, this league has now ruined normal racing formats for me because it doesn't
Yeah,
engage me off as much. It doesn't engage me off as much as this does. It's just different. So you've ruined league racing for me. So when you do end up hanging up the admin, then
yeah.
it's curtains for me as well. I think so. Unless that changes, but
It's. I think your views are shared with quite a few because
mm,
you know as well as I do the drivers that come back every season. They are the same names. We don't actively look for drivers,
exactly. We very rarely do
but
sign ups simply because it's just the
yeah,
driver retention is so good and everyone enjoys the league and it's so unique. You
yeah,
very rarely see a league who never has to beg for new drivers to come. But I think it also helps that we have a few drivers who are quite interchangeable with pace, but they can be in Kia, but they can also be in Cup. It's good to have that. I
yeah.
think it also just helps like it connects the two leagues. I think because
Yes, I
could you
agree.
imagine if there was no crossover and
Well,
they would
and
just be two separate entities? Whereas now you've got obviously got like Yori and Quinn, for example, who are in Kia and Cup. Well, Yori isn't, but he may as well be because
he's
he's
the
race
main
DNF every
reserve.
single
Yeah,
race. Yeah, but um, yeah, it's good. I think it has that. It bridges the two leagues. I know you say it's not your tier and everything else, and you sort of
took the words
dissociate
out of my
yourself with it
mouth.
and let us. Yeah, you let me and OKK do our thing, but it does bring that bridge, and I think that it again just reinforces that community aspect of it. It's just it's good. It's good.
You speak about you and OKK. Of course, since season 2, you've come a long way from just another driver to probably maybe on par, maybe even slightly ahead of OKK. One of my main assistants, if you will, in the league. You steward or lead steward for Cup, assistant steward in Kia. You have the keys to the JACKOCAST 2 account. You help rewrite the rule book. Are you loving life as a JACKOCAST admin?
I'm loving life because I think I don't say it's not a
Dishing
chore.
out
I live in
NFAs every week to
yeah. I
people that you
love
don't
dishing
like?
out an
Yeah.
NFA. No, but I think it's because I care so much about it. It feels only right that I can do everything I can to help it. If I've got the time, if I've got, if I can make graphics, if I can help with stewarding things like that, if I understand the rule books and then therefore can write a rule book up with Matt, all things like that, which not many people will be able to do or have the time to do.
Mm.
If I can do that or we can do that, then that only just helps the league and then that helps me and then it helps everyone else at the same time. So it's sort of just it all complements each other. As I say, it's just because the amount of love I have for the league in that sense is just so enjoyable that it feels only right that I can do what I can and offer what I can to help it just keeps those levels of where we'll never have to look for new drivers or explain new rules to people because everyone will just want to come back every season anyway.
It is a blessing not having to
It is.
explain the
It's
rules.
definitely a blessing.
The first 4 or 5 seasons, where I still had sort of more reign and more control over the league, I found myself chatting to every single new driver and going through the rules and then the point systems and what you can and can't do.
And
Oh,
it's worrying, especially because obviously you don't want them
because you
to
might miss
rock up to
something.
round one and then they'll make a mistake and it just sort of kills the whole race for them and then they might not want to stay because they think, oh, I've just won this race, but you're taking it
Yeah.
away from me because of some rule. So it's yeah. But no, you're right in what you're saying. It's good that we have the core
Yeah.
driver group now, so that we don't have to explain the rules all the time. Not to say we wouldn't do it if there was to be a new driver to come in, but thankfully we don't have
Well,
that issue at the minute.
that's the thing. When new drivers do come in, there's the community is so focused. Sorry, so together now that I find the relevant tier that the new driver joins, all the other drivers help the new driver. So it's
Definitely, yeah,
very good in that sense.
100%. And then I mean, you can even see it just even throughout the drivers already had with the new pit stop rule. Some people didn't grasp it straight away,
Yeah,
but that's not to say it wasn't then when we came to round one. There was no issues.
everyone got it right, didn't they?
Everyone grasped it, and I was really worried about it when I was watching the Kia race, especially because I was been told that some people didn't understand it, and that I was really worried for round one. But then looking at it, and I was watching the race, and I'm thinking, no, everyone's got this spot on, and it's good to see. It's good to see that it's just been able to just click into place, and there's no teething issues with it. It's
Yeah,
just everyone's been able, apart from myself, obviously, I made the mistake of it in round one in China, but that was more of a heads gone mistake moment than misunderstanding of the rules.
You had winter
But
off. That was it.
I had winter off. That was it. Getting the rust off.
So yeah. So thank you from me for the help that you provide and the others as well, like OKK,
So thank
in
you for
helping
allowing me
to run
to.
the
Thank you
league.
for allowing me to.
Because it makes my life so easy.
Of
You've
course it
no
does.
idea. I can go to work and go on standby like I do and not have to worry about it. If I have to miss a Kia
Yeah.
race, it is what it
You know,
is.
it's in safe hands. You know, it's in
Yeah.
safe hands all around here.
As for missing a cup race, that's never happened yet.
Mm.
So 105 not out for
It's
me
got your name on it,
personally.
mate. You can't
Yeah,
not rock up to your own league.
name above the door. Mr. Shaw, that is everything from me. Is there anything that I have missed?
I can't think off the top of my head. I think you've covered all bases there, mate. I think it's good. It's good to get back in and try again after the technical difficulties.
Yes.
But
I think a more successful podcast as well this
I
time.
would agree. I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah. Well, definitely because we can hear your voice this time. So
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's at least one thing better straight off the bat. Unless some people might not want that. They might just hear you and not want to listen to me babble on, but
that scouse voice.
yeah,
Um,
horrible.
the only thing I didn't get to say, but you said it anyway, you are a back-to-back regular season champion, the only driver in the league to ever do that. Traditionally, it's a curse. You're very much in line to be a three-time regular season champion at time of recording. Is it third? Well, it wouldn't be third time lucky. Would it be fourth time lucky going in the Championship 5? One word answer: is this your season when we go to Silverstone?
Yes.
There you go.
I'll put myself on the line on that one. I'll say yes because, as I said to you before, I don't believe in self deprivation like that. I don't agree with saying I'm shit. So I'll say yes. And if I end up having to eat my own words, then that's how it is. But
There you
I'll
go.
back myself.
We'll be clipping this part of the podcast, and you'll
Yep,
be
you
getting
will.
it sent
You
to
will.
you from everyone else. Very well. Okay, Mr. Shaw, thank you very much. Driver of the number 29 car, which you're seeing on screen with the number 48 on instead of that.
The test car.
The test car, test livery. Your episode will be out. Well, everyone will hear it when it's out, won't they? But it'll be out on Thursday before round 6 of the Cup Series, wherever we are racing this week. Do you know? Because I've totally forgotten. Hungary.
6 jokers.
6 jokers. How could I
6
forget?
jokers. One of them
There you
doesn't
go.
win, I'll be very disappointed in them.
If none of them win, they're all getting fired. And then we'll have to get new drivers in.
Well, there you go. Then you might have to get the sign-ups open for the playoffs.
Indeed. Thank you very much for your time. It's
Thank you
been a
very much for
pleasure.
having me. Cheers.
No worries. We'll see you next time on JACKOCAST.